Do illegal immigrants have the right to bear arms? Yes, that's something that's being debated in America now. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. We all know the Second Amendment gives American citizens the right to bear arms. But what about non-citizens? Generally speaking, legal immigrants can obtain guns as long as they meet federal residential requirements or follow specific conditions or exceptions. I mean, if immigrants weren't allowed to have guns, then we would have never had Arnold Schwarzenegger's film career, and frankly, that's an America I wouldn't want to live in. But what about illegal immigrants? Can they legally own firearms? Well, according to U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman, a federal judge in Illinois appointed by President Barack Obama, yes, they can. She ruled that illegal immigrants have gun rights protected by the Second Amendment, because the only thing missing from the southern border crisis was guns. Great, now both sides can be doubly mad about this. At least everyone's unhappy equally. So it may sound crazy, and it has definitely riled up a lot of people, especially at a time like this. But is there actually anything to this? Coleman made her ruling in the court case U.S. v. Carbajal Flores. The story goes like this. On June 1st, 2020, the defendant, an illegal immigrant named Herberto Carbajal Flores, was caught using a handgun, allegedly in self-defense in Chicago. Or, as using a handgun in many parts of Chicago is called, a Chi-Town salute. Carbajal Flores was charged for violating Title 18 of the U.S. Criminal Code, which says that it's unlawful for illegal immigrants to possess any firearm or ammunition. Which is definitely an effective law, because I'm sure illegal immigrants would never do anything illegal. Carbajal Flores said he received the firearm for self-defense during the height of the 2020 George Floyd protests. You know, the ones that became the summer of love. Pretty reasonable to want something to protect yourself during that time. Forget COVID, the thing you were most likely to catch was on fire. Now, at first, Judge Coleman found the federal ban to be constitutional in a 2022 decision. But lawyers for Carbajal Flores asked the court to reconsider that ruling. Coleman reconsidered her ruling and looked at the Supreme Court's 2022 New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin decision, which determined that the U.S. government must show that regulations are consistent with the nation's historical tradition. And the Seventh Circuit's 2023 Atkinson v. Garland, which asked some questions to sort out how historical tradition relates to laws against felon possession. I joke about the summer of love, but when it comes to historical tradition, getting mad and destroying property is as OG as America gets. Upon review, Coleman concluded that Carbajal Flores' illegally present status was not sufficient to deny him Second Amendment rights. The judge said the plain text of the Constitution presumptively protects firearm possession by undocumented persons. How did she determine that? Well, Coleman focused on whether he had a violent history, not so much his immigration status. She seemed pretty unbothered about the fact that Carbajal Flores came into the U.S. illegally. Given that he has never been convicted of a felony, violent crime, or a crime involving a weapon, the court determined that there is insufficient evidence to suggest Carbajal Flores is a danger to society. The example Coleman gave was 19th century British loyalists, who sided with the British during the American Revolution, but were allowed to carry firearms because they were nonviolent. With that in mind, Coleman concluded that the federal ban on illegal immigrants possessing firearms, as applied specifically to Carbajal Flores, is unconstitutional and dismissed the charges against him. And, assuming he's still in Chicago, hopefully she recommended something a little more powerful than just a handgun. But obviously, many are worried that this blurs the lines separating the rights of citizens and illegal immigrants. Here's Senator Marco Rubio.
Then look, what they're trying to do is blur the line between citizenship and everything else, people that are here illegally. And you almost wonder if it's not being done to sort of mock both gun laws and also a whole understanding of the value of being a citizen of the United States of America. There has to be a distinction between citizenship and non-citizenship.
Now, some of you might automatically agree with Rubio that, of course, you need to be a legal citizen of the U.S. to have the Second Amendment gun rights apply to you. But consider this. The Founding Fathers, when they wrote the Bill of Rights, did not think that rights such as the right to free speech were given by any government, but by an almighty creator. Governments are there to protect inalienable rights that people already have. That's how we got the term God-given rights, which implies God's given out the guns, which sounds like the plot to a new Schwarzenegger flick I would totally see. The Founding Fathers wrote the Bill of Rights in terms of negative rights, or rights of the people that the government cannot infringe on, including the right to free speech and the Second Amendment. Of course, when it comes to things like the Second Amendment, it's not straight black and white. The U.S. government can restrict gun ownership from certain people, such as criminals and fetuses. Obviously, it'd be dangerous to give them guns since they don't have fingerprints yet. But this is why even some American gun advocates argue illegal immigrants should have guns because of an inherent right to self-defense. In fact, one Republican lawmaker said unauthorized immigrants share a God-given right to have guns. If all people have the right to free speech, belief, granted by the Creator, do all people have the right to self-defense with a gun? So this is now one of those issues that seems simple up front but becomes a lot blurrier the more you look at it. But you do have to wonder, with all the restrictions on legal American citizens buying guns, how does an illegal immigrant legally buy a gun, especially in Chicago? Ultimately, this could take a Supreme Court ruling to decide. But of course, talking about illegal immigration and guns is something YouTube doesn't want me to do, which is why I've started to hide really controversial topics in gaming content on my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. Click here to see the latest about the border crisis in Skyrim. That is, definitely not talking about real-world events, YouTube. Check it out and let me know what you think. And I can't afford to make America Uncovered without your support. Hit that orange button to go to my Patreon page. All it takes is a couple of bucks a month to keep the show alive. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.